right, hello everybody. Welcome to another week in NACS. This week in NACS is here to tell the stories of our scene, spotlighting the players, teams, and tournaments that make North American Counter-Strike special week by week. This week's headlines include Liquid in Faze's continued struggle, while Tier 2 NA heats up and shakes things up. I appreciate y'all bearing with me. I'm a little under the weather today, so if my voice gives out on us, just work with me here. Got a new headset, a new mic. Let me know if that is feeling improved over the old one. But without further ado, let's dive in. And I want to get started with the PGL Bucharest tournament, where we left off on the playoffs with Team Liquid, who this will be a pretty short one because they only had one game in the playoffs. Wrapping it up, they had quite the unfortunate outro. After obliterating Saw 13-4 on Ancient, Liquid went on to lose Train 13-2 and Inferno 13-1. That's right, Liquid won only 3 rounds over 2 maps against Saw. Now, look, one bad series doesn't define an entire roster or an era or anything like that, but this was a shocker, and the timing is really rough with the major right around the doorstep. We need to be putting up at least a competitive showing against Saw any given day of the week. Even lower ranked NA teams are taking Saw down, as we will see later in this episode. And this means that there's either a smaller gap between tier 1, our liquids and our phases, I guess. In tier 2, our Marsborn, NRG, M80s. There's either a smaller gap there than we thought, or there is a shift happening in which the current rankings are not necessarily representative of the actual power rankings of these rosters. Something to look at. And a little note to self, maybe we start doing a weekly NA power ranking. But let's dive in because this is not the only way these teams interacted. Let's go on ahead and look at a little bit more uplifting of a tournament, which was the Fragadelphia Ultra Mega Jersey in Jersey, presumably. So moving on to something a little more upbeat, NRG in Fragadelphia dunked on Saw for some sweet NA vengeance. All right. Now, yes, this was a close game. It was competitive, but we won. NRG beat Saw. And the even crazier thing is that after taking down Saw in the semifinal, NRG went on to beat M80, who I had heavily favored in the grand final. A full reverse sweep at that. This is good for a lot of reasons, like we were just saying, when looking at Liquid's loss to Saw, there is implication that maybe these rankings are not quite right. If Liquid is getting absolutely destroyed by Saw at Bucharest and then turning around and NRG is doing away with them, then the disparity between these teams is not what we thought it was. And if we're looking at this half glass full, which is how I am going to be choosing to look at it, it's a good thing. It means NRG are on the rise and that we can really do some damage in this major. And M80, although they didn't directly face Saw, I can't help but think would have dispatched them just as easily. And I'd like to take a note, even though M80 lost to NRG in the grand final, let's just take a minute to note how impactful Lake has been, even in a loss here. He's putting up a 1.17 rating. He has been grinding and putting in the work, and it's showing big time. He has a 1.39 rating, I believe. Let me see if my notes are right here. Yes, he has a 1.39 rating. across the entire tournament. He was certainly the MVP, and his space taking ability has just gotten absolutely insane. I can recall seeing him in an interview saying that he has been grinding deathmatch and ladder a little more, pushing himself a little bit harder, and it shows in his confidence and his ability. This is exactly the type of pre-major confidence boost that NA teams need going into the major, and it puts a smile on my face. So let's take a second and move over to the bigger stage of IEM Chengdu, right? So IEM Chengdu, we had two teams for NA representation, Faze and G2. Faze unfortunately continued to struggle with just a real lack of direction in their form. Faze lost their opening game 2-0 to Mouse, which we aren't going to hold that against them. Mouse is a great team. Faze is going through a hard time. This sent them immediately to the lower bracket where they got reverse swept by Virtus Pro in pretty brutal fashion. What stands out here is that FaZe struggled even against a new and untested team. Perfecto, who is now IGLing for Virtus Pro, only began IGLing very recently, and most of this roster are fresh imports from Tier 2 and 3, and that's the part that worries me. FaZe look shaky even against teams that are still figuring out who they are. The boys need to be able to have a baseline better than this if they want to assert themselves as a top 10 or even top 20 team after the major. The excuse FaZe has been using for what feels like almost an entire year now is that their roster is in flux. First of all, how are we in flux for a year? Like, lock in. But you're not in flux and like some if you're in flux for a year straight at that level, it's one thing for a player to have bad form, to go through something in their personal life, something like that. But for a roster to just not, that's a lack of vision. And now they're up against another team who is in a transitional phase, an even bigger transitional phase with even less experienced players to help them with it. And they're getting dumpstered still. So excuses are out the window. It's really, really hard to come up with anything to sugarcoat this type of result for FaZe right now. But if we take a look at the other side of PGL, we do once again have sweet, sweet vengeance from our boys in G2. Right, we started off with a really strong win against 3D Max, which we love to see. That went into a loss against Furia, sending us to the lower bracket where we got our sweet revenge against Virtus Pro for FaZe Clan with an awesome performance from MadES and from Mobs, who I love seeing up here in the positives, and then losing to G2. Seeing Mobs come alive is a big condition for G2 growing past the current place that they are in. We know Heavy God can deliver. He's one of the best players of the year. There's no doubts there. And the thing about Mobs is he plays a very selfless entry fragger, more akin to maybe a Flamesy than a Donk or Zantara's, right? He's one of these soldier entry fraggers who is selfless, goes in for his team. He's willing to make the plays happen. He's not very stat focused in his stats, even though playing similar roles to a Donk, a Zantara's, even in exertion, it's still a little bit more supportive of a role in how he plays it and how the team structures around that. And with that being said, seeing him put up solid numbers and look confident is great. If Malbs and this team can peak at the right time, they are going to be, mark my words, they're going to be a threat at the major. This team is going to do some damage, even though they are coming in late to the major. I think maybe not until stage 1, where the competition is going to be a little heated. They could definitely do some damage. And we're not concerned about these losses, right? A loss to Furia, a loss to Vitality. It's all good. Seeing mobs come alive is the goal, and we have achieved that a little bit. Now, let's cross the seas back to our homeland of NA and check in ESL Cup 4, the final ESL Cup of the season. At ESL Cup 4, Skinrave defeated Marsborn to win their second consecutive ESL Cup finals. The grand finals were a heated and much anticipated, at least by me, battle between the top teams, Skinrave and Marsborn. Skinrave came in hot at rank 122 and obliterated the rank number 50 Marsborn 2-0 with a 13-11 win on Inferno and a 13-4 win on Overpass to seal the deal. Welko put up a massive 1.58 rating across both maps, and Grizz on Marsborn unfortunately was not able to find his footing in this series. Welko has been just crazy impactful for Skinrave. We've highlighted him in tournaments before. He plays a lot of these lurk positions, and his timing and ability to get in there and cause chaos, fuck up rotates, just really denying teams the ability to claim space is huge. He's one of the best closers I'm seeing right now in NA. Very, very happy about this guy. Grizz scoring so low is abnormal. He is one of those support players who I think I've referred to him before as the NA heavy god. And if I haven't, I'm going to start doing that. But he's one of these supports who can have star performances, and having him not fire in this tournament is what it is, right? That's going to happen. It's unavoidable. With that in mind, I'm not going to be too hard on Marsborn for this loss, and at the same time, I'm very happy to see Skinrave catch the win. This is also important because the way these ESL Cups work, it's a little confusing, but because Skinrave won 2 consecutive Cups in a row, they bypass the semifinals and go straight to the grand final of the ESL regional, the winner of which gets the spot in the EPL Tier 1 tournament next year. So their opponent, they're already cinched for the grand finals. Their opponent will be the winner of NRG Wildcard, which takes place this week. Maybe our match of the week. Definitely do not miss that game. The winner of that will face Skinrave in the grand final the next day, and they will get a slot in EPL. This is huge for these teams, right? The reason it's so big is because EPL is a Tier 1 tournament. These teams have been duking it out in Tier 2, earning their stripes. If Skinrave can take down the winner of NRG Wildcard, they go to EPL, where even if they're eliminated right away, it means they're playing Vitality. It means they're playing Mouse. It means they're playing Furia and Team Spirit, right? Skinrave is not on the radar of those massive Tier 1 super orgs right now. Whoever gets this ESL Cup victory goes to face these teams in the next EPL tournament. So this is huge. The VRS implications for major possibilities is huge. The exposure is huge. The experience for NA is huge. This shows massive growth, and I'm very, very proud of all of these teams. I'm going to be happy no matter who wins. NRG, probably the most favored in my opinion, but dude, if NRG beats Wildcard and then it's NRG Skinrave in the grand final, oh my goodness, what a fight. I'm very, very excited for that. We do have one more trip to take though, and that is over to Hong Kong. Second time in China for this episode. We were in Chengdu earlier. Let's go over to Hong Kong to check out the Blast Rivals tournament, which was pretty brief. The only NA representation here was Passion UA, who I'm a big fan of. They took down a very weakened Mongols in this game. Senzu benching himself, I think. Control E's not looking terrible, but It's not what we're here to talk about. Passion UA took down the weakened Mongols. Unfortunately, I think we can kind of throw this game away. We don't really know what it means. Yes, Grim did great. Grim's been doing great. Grim's our dude. So we don't learn too much from this win. We go to the next match where we lose to Falcons. Now, this is where things get interesting, right? Because we almost beat Falcons. Now, did we actually almost beat them? I don't think so. Monacy is a beast, dude. 1.53 rating. We did our best, but look, like, this is competitive. If this is the score line, dude, that's way above expectations. Falcons, number 3 team. Like, this is way above expectations. Grim, our dude, best closer in NA right now. Incredible performance. But then we get to the playoffs, right? And we get absolutely bodied by Pain. This was a tough watch. In Nuke and Inferno, there were parts where it looked competitive but Nick X kept getting caught out. It didn't look clean. A lot of the players looked like they lacked confidence. I don't know if this was burnout, maybe, like the situation where you kind of give it your all against Falcons and then you're burned out by the time you're playing Pain. But Falcons is a way, way better team than Pain. You know, these results don't totally make sense, and it's kind of hard to make sense of. Buying with the Mongols, this kind of just ends up with a meh for me. I don't think that we can really see too much, or not that we can't see, but we can't infer too much about Passion UA's growth or lack of growth from this. Grim being a beast is all we can really gather, and that is something we already knew. But hey, Grim is a beast. I am excited to see Passion UA at the Major, and that moves us along to the debut of a new bi-yearly segment, Major Predictions. Now, the Major is fast approaching, and we are blessed to have a considerable amount of NA representation at this tournament. Let's get this pulled up. Boom. We're going to start in stage 1, right? Let's go stage by stage, starting with stage 1, to look at what teams are playing and when. Now, stage 1 will feature M80, FlyQuest, NRG, and Faze Clan brawling it out for one of the 8 spots in stage 2, right? These are the brackets. They go round. I believe this is a round robin type format. So whoever the top 8 teams are will go on to stage 2 in our representation here. Once again, M80, FlyQuest, NRG, and Faze Clan. That's 4 teams starting in stage 1 who are going to be trying to grind this out. In stage 2, those teams will play the next ranked opponents, right? So hopefully, let's say hypothetically, all 4 NA teams make it through. Maybe not the most likely, but let's say, you know. Now we're in stage 2. It's going to be a similar format, and we are going to be joined with 2 more NA reps, Team Liquid and Passion UA. Hell yeah. Very exciting. The winner of this stage progresses to the final stage of the Major and the playoffs, which segue into playoff stage 3. And we have yet another NA rep coming in. Our boy Mobs on G2 is going to be coming in here at stage 1. So at the very least, no matter what, we will have NA representation at every stage of this winter's Major, which is a huge accomplishment of growth in and of itself. I will be rooting for our guys as proudly as I can and hoping that we stay strong and do some damage all the way up to the playoffs and beyond. There's a lot of potential here. I'm going hard for all of these teams. And I think I don't even know who the most favorite is, because honestly, I hope that I'm wrong here, but I don't see G2 necessarily doing anything super crazy with these teams. I can almost see more likely some wild run from M80 or NRG here. I think that is the most unlikely situation that we have coming. And that makes me very, very happy. And I'd like to use this to segue into a new segment that I'd like to call the ever-evolving and never-existing NA super team of your dreams. In this segment, we're going to take a quick look back at recent results from the week and sort of build our fantasy NA super team based on standout players. The roles for this segment for each of the 5 players, we're going to kind of simplify it. I know that this is not how every team structures itself. That's totally fine. We just need some roles to slot in here. And we are going to use the classics based on map position over the map pool. So we're going to go with opener, who plays the pack and rotator positions, right? We are going to go with the Opper and the IGL. These 3 make up your pack. And then you have 2 extremity players. We're going to call one the power anchor, also sometimes called the closer. This is an extremity player who often plays rotator positions on defense. They usually have a little bit more freedom to move around. And then you're going to have your anchor, often called a support in modern CS. The anchor is usually holding it down, sometimes lurking, sometimes just playing a supportive role, playing the extremities and, of course, the tough anchor spots on defense. Now, let's dive in. For the opener slot for the week, for this week's super team, we are going with Lake from M80. Lake has dominated and showed huge improvement even when M80 has struggled, showing growth as a player, growth as a fragger, and we are honored to name him as our first. This little list that I'm working on, it's not nearly fully filled out. In fact, let's go over here. We also have 100 Thieves over here. We're going to wait and talk about this next week. But obviously, as anything, we are very excited for 100 Thieves return and Rain coming from Faze. Love, love, love. Okay, so for our opener, we are going with my boy Lake. Hell yeah. Lake is our opener of the week. And let's go and just fill out our pack from here. For the Opper on our NA super team, we are going with Exotic from NRG, right? Exotic has been popping off, putting up ratings. On NRG's performances, he is often top fragging, especially when they're winning. He's showing growth. He's not, right? There's a lot of great NA operas actually up and coming in the scene right now. I think more than people realize, Slight on Boss has been absolutely incredible. There's a bunch to mention, but for right now, Exotic, Opera of the Week, IGL of the Week. We are also going to go to NRG and pick Nitro, Captain America, our dude. Nitro has been huge. Cryptic was a very close runner-up, but I gotta give it to Nitro. He's been so strong in the scene. He's been around a long time. He always gives his heart and soul. He's our captain of the week. He is Captain America. IGL are going with Nitro. For the power anchor, lurker, closer position, it has got to be Welko from Skinrave. Grim in a close second, but we're going Welko. Welko's impact has been absolutely massive for Skinrave. They would not be winning the games they are winning without Welko performing the way that he is performing. Dominant performance, insanely high impact lurks. Welko deserves this 100%. And we are going to round our list off with maybe an unlikely pick of Naf from Team Liquid. Naf is on a huge upswing from his struggles earlier in the year. And even with a crazy loss this week to Saw, we're not talking about it anymore. It happened. Even with that, in that game, Naf was able to put up a 1.15 rating, right? Yeah, 1.15 rating from Naf in that game. And he's been doing that a couple tournaments in a row where Liquid bombs out and Naf still puts up numbers, which is such a change of pace and makes me so happy. This is great. Keep in mind, this is from a full anchor support role. This is very, very impressive. If we're looking at, one of the best anchors in the world of ROPS, granted, he's playing higher tier competition sometimes, but like, dude, Naf on a very struggling team, 1.12 rating, my dude, 100%. And that makes our dream team the ever evolving and never existing NA super team of your dreams. This is the team that I think could really do some damage right now. This is their super team. Lake, Exotic, Nitro, Walco, and Naf. This team would fuck shit up. Let's go. For the weeks ahead, please keep an eye on the Budapest Major, which is starting on November 24th, as this is where most of the action will be focused in the coming weeks. But we do have some other stuff to keep an eye on. The ESL Cup NA Grand Finals. That is going to be the 17th, which actually, no, it can't be. That was yesterday. This tournament must be going on the 19th and the 20th, most likely. But check HLTV as always. The ESL Cup NA Grand Finals coming up in the next few days. We also have Draculand Season 3, which will only feature Passion UA for NA representation. That's going on the 20th to the 23rd. It's going to be, I would assume, their last outing before the major. I'm going to have my eyes on that. I'm not foreseeing anything super crazy, but I'd love to see Passion UA dominate at Draculand. We haven't really learned much about this team recently. They just keep having a lot of ups and downs, with Grim being the only consistency. I want to see some more from Passion UA at this tournament if I'm going to get excited for them going into the major. And then the biggest thing probably is the final ESL Impact International Finals, which is a must watch. It'll be going on from the 28th of November through the 30th. We are rooting for FlyQuest Red and Sakura, our NA girlies there. They are going to be facing off against international talent. I think we got NIP Impact, Big Equipa, Imperial. Check it out. Catch that tournament. Root for our girls. Support them. Hop in the chat. You'll see me there. This is Iggy SP signing off. That was This Week in NACS. Everybody keep the energy high. Keep the scene going. And always remember to stay safe and stay planted. Thank you sincerely for tuning in and supporting. And we'll see you on the server. Thank you.